The text came through during my morning meeting with the Costa del Sol development team. We were reviewing the final plans for the new spa complex, a $40 million project that would add another jewel to Coastal Paradise Resort's already impressive collection of amenities. My phone buzzed on the conference table and I glanced at it just long enough to read my brother Derek's message. Sold your beach shack, you never use it anyway. Found a buyer willing to pay $180,000. Closing next week. You're welcome. I stared at the message for exactly 3 seconds before returning my attention to the architect's presentation. The spa complex would feature 17 treatment rooms, an infinity pool overlooking the Pacific, and a meditation garden with native coastal plants. Much more interesting than whatever Derek thought he'd accomplished. My phone buzzed again. Mom, this time in the family group chat. Good, it was an embarrassment. That old thing made our family look poor. Derek did you a favor, Maya. Then Derek again. Seriously, you should be thanking me. $180,000 for that dump is a miracle. I'm taking my 10% finder's fee BTW. That's only fair. I typed out a single word, okay. Then I muted the chat and went back to work. The architect was explaining the thermal heating system for the spa pools. It was ingenious, really, using geothermal energy to maintain perfect temperatures year-round while keeping operational costs minimal. This was the kind of problem-solving I appreciated. My assistant, Patricia, caught my eye from across the table. She'd seen the texts, she saw everything that came across my devices, part of her job as my right hand for the past 8 years. Her expression was carefully neutral, but I detected the slight raise of her eyebrow. The one that meant, do you want me to handle this? I shook my head almost imperceptibly. Not yet. The meeting continued for another 90 minutes. We approved the spa design, discussed the timeline, 18 months from groundbreaking to opening, and reviewed the projected revenue impact. Conservative estimates put the spa at $8 million annually once fully operational. I signed off on the $112 million budget without hesitation. Anything else? I asked as we wrapped up. Just the quarterly board meeting next month, Patricia said. And your interview with Hospitality today about the expansion. They're particularly interested in the story of how you built Coastal Paradise from a single property to a 12-resort portfolio. Of course they are. Everyone loves an underdog story. I stood gathering my tablet. Forward me the interview questions by Friday. Already in your inbox. Also, your brother has called the main resort line 4 times in the last hour. Reception is asking if they should put him through. No. Understood. She paused. Should I prepare anything? Legal perhaps. Not yet. Let's see how this plays out. By the time I returned to my office overlooking the main resort grounds, Derek had called 6 more times. Mom had sent another dozen texts, each one more effusive about how smart Derek was to finally get rid of that eyesore. My sister Lauren had chimed in too. About time someone in this family made a practical decision. That beach house was always a waste. The beach house in question was a 3-bedroom cottage on a prime piece of oceanfront property. I'd bought it 14 years ago for $220,000 when I was 24. My first real estate purchase, made with every penny I'd saved from working 3 jobs through college and 2 years of brutal hours at an investment firm. The cottage itself was modest, sure. A bit weathered. In need of updates. But the land it sat on? That was the crown jewel of what would eventually become Coastal Paradise Resort. I'd spent 13 years carefully, quietly, systematically purchasing every piece of property around that cottage. The old motel 2 lots down. The shuttered restaurant next door. The vacation rentals across the street. The empty lots that nobody wanted because they thought the area was declining. Piece by piece, I'd assembled 73 acres of premium oceanfront real estate. Then I'd built an empire on it. Coastal Paradise Resort now featured 2 luxury hotels, 48 private villas, 3 restaurants, 2 golf courses, a marina, a shopping village, and soon that spectacular new spa. The property was valued at just over $900 million. We employed 2,400 people. Last year's revenue was $147 million. And right in the middle of it all, on the most valuable acre of the entire complex, sat my worthless beach shack. I'd kept it exactly as it was. Modest, unassuming, a little worn around the edges. It was my private retreat, the place I went when I needed to remember where I started. The place that reminded me why I'd built all of this. And Derek had just sold it. My phone rang. Derek again. I let it go to voicemail. 30 seconds later, Patricia buzzed through. It's your brother. He says it's urgent. Something about paperwork and the buyer backing out. Put him through. Paya. Derek's voice was frantic. Thank God. We have a serious problem. The buyer, they got a call from some resort manager? Saying the property isn't actually for sale? That there's some kind of ownership issue. Interesting, I said mildly. Interesting? Maya, this is a disaster. I already spent my finder's fee. I put down a deposit on a new Audi. You need to fix this right now. Fix what exactly? The ownership issue. Look, I know you're not great with paperwork and legal stuff. You never were. But I need you to call the resort people and explain that yes, you own that cottage and yes, you're selling it. The buyer is threatening to walk away. Why would I do that? Silence. Then, what do you mean, why would you do that? Because I already arranged the sale. Because you never use that place anyway. Because $180,000 is a fortune for that dump. Derek, let me ask you something. How did you arrange to sell a property you don't own? I have your power of attorney, remember? You gave it to me 5 years ago when you were traveling and needed someone to handle your mail. Actually, I'd given him limited power of attorney to sign for package deliveries. But apparently he'd interpreted that somewhat more broadly. I see. And you used that to forge my signature on a sales contract. I didn't forge anything. I had legal authority to act on your behalf. Maya, seriously, I'm trying to help you here. That cottage is falling apart. It's surrounded by all this fancy resort stuff that makes it look even worse. I did you a favor finding someone willing to pay anything for it. What resort stuff? I asked innocently. What? The Coastal Paradise Resort. It's everywhere around your cottage. That's actually why the buyer wanted it. They think it'll increase in value because of the resort. Though personally I think they're idiots. The resort is probably going to buy up that land eventually anyway and tear down anything that's there. Probably, I agreed. So you see why we need to sell now. Get the money before the resort forces you out for pennies. He was getting agitated. Maya, I'm serious. Call them. Fix this. The buyer is waiting. Who's the buyer? Some investment group. Pacific Ventures LLC. They're paying cash, which is why we need to move fast. These kinds of buyers don't wait around. Pacific Ventures LLC. I knew them. A legitimate firm, though known for aggressive tactics. They specialized in finding valuable properties near luxury developments, buying them cheap, then immediately flipping them to the developments themselves for double or triple the price. Smart business if somewhat parasitic. Let me make some calls, I said. I'll handle it. Thank you. Derek's relief was palpable. Seriously, thank you. I knew you'd come through. And Maya? When this goes through, maybe you should think about investing that money properly. I know a guy who does financial planning. He could really help you build something with that $180,000. I'll keep that in mind. After I hung up, Patricia appeared in my doorway. Michael Chin called. Michael was the general manager of Coastal Paradise Resort, technically my employee, though I'd structured things so that most staff didn't realize I was the owner. I preferred operating through holding companies and management firms. Fewer complications that way. And he said a Mr. Derek Chin has been calling repeatedly, claiming to be authorized to sell the cottage property. Michael wanted to verify before taking any action. What did you tell him? Nothing yet. I wanted your instructions first. I considered for a moment. This could go several ways. I could shut it down immediately, embarrass Derek, be done with it. Quick, clean, efficient. But where was the lesson in that? Tell Michael to schedule a meeting with Derek. Tomorrow 2 p.m. Conference room. Derek wants to sell the cottage? Let's discuss it properly. Patricia's professional mask slipped just slightly, a hint of a smile. Should I prepare anything specific? Just the usual property documentation. Oh, and make sure Robert is available. Robert Kim was our head legal counsel. Harvard Law, 20 years of experience, utterly unflappable. This is going to be educational, Patricia said. For someone, certainly. That evening Mom called. Maya, sweetheart, Derek told me there's some hold-up with the cottage sale. I hope you're not being difficult about this. I'm not being anything, Mom. Derek arranged a meeting with the resort management to discuss it. Well, good. It's about time you got rid of that place. Honestly, when I think about how embarrassing it is to tell my friends that my daughter owns that shabby little cottage right in the middle of one of the most exclusive resorts on the coast. She trailed off meaningfully. It must be very hard for you, I said. It is. Do you know what Margaret said last month when we drove past it? She said, "Oh, is that where Maya lives?" How quaint. Quaint Maya. That's code for poor. I see. Your father and I have worked so hard to build a good reputation in this community. Your sister Lauren married the Hendersons' son. Do you know what the Hendersons are worth? And Derek has his car dealership doing so well. But then people drive by Coastal Paradise and see that cottage and think. She sighed dramatically. Well, you understand. I do understand, Mom. So you'll sign whatever papers Derek brings you? Let him handle this. He really is trying to help, you know. He's always been the practical one in the family. Derek is definitely something, I agreed. The next day I dressed carefully. Not my usual office attire. No designer suits or obvious luxury pieces. Instead I chose simple slacks, a plain blouse, minimal jewelry. The kind of outfit that suggested exactly what my family had always assumed. That I was doing okay, nothing special, certainly not successful by their standards. I arrived at Coastal Paradise Resort at 1:45 p.m., parking my 5-year-old Subaru in the guest lot. Derek's new Audi, apparently purchased on the confidence of his 10% finder's fee, was already there, gleaming silver in the afternoon sun. Inside, the lobby was as spectacular as always. 30-foot ceilings, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Pacific, custom chandeliers that cost more than most people's houses. Guests in expensive resort-wear lounged in clusters, sipping craft cocktails from our award-winning bar. Derek was pacing near the concierge desk, checking his watch. He spotted me and rushed over. Finally. I've been here 20 minutes. These people are so particular about punctuality. He looked me up and down, his expression shifting to barely concealed disappointment. That's what you're wearing? Maya, this is a business meeting at a luxury resort. You couldn't have dressed up a little? I came straight from work. Right. Your work. He said it with that tone, the one that suggested whatever I did for work couldn't possibly be important. Come on, the conference room is this way. And please let me do the talking. I've already established a rapport with the management team. We took the elevator to the 3rd floor where the executive offices were located. I designed this floor myself, insisting on natural light and ocean views for every office. The conference room Derek led us to was one of my favorites. Floor-to-ceiling windows on 2 walls, a custom table made from reclaimed wood salvaged from old fishing boats, chairs that cost $3,000 each because comfort mattered during long meetings. Michael Chin was already there along with Robert Kim and 2 other members of my executive team. Michael stood when we entered, professional and composed as always. Mr. Chin, he said, shaking Derek's hand. Thank you for coming. And you must be Ms. Chin. He turned to me with a handshake. Maya, I said simply. Please have a seat. Michael gestured to the far side of the table, the side where visitors sat, where people without power sat. I'd sat on the other side of this table hundreds of times. It was strange seeing it from this angle. Derek dove right in. So let's clear this up quickly. My sister owns the cottage property, has owned it for years. I have power of attorney, which gives me the right to handle the sale on her behalf. The buyer is ready to close. We just need your resort to stop interfering with the process. Michael exchanged a glance with Robert. I see. Mr. Chin, I appreciate you coming in to discuss this, but I'm afraid there are some complications you may not be aware of. What complications? It's a straightforward property sale. The cottage sits on land that's integral to our resort operations, Michael explained. Any sale of that property would need to be coordinated with resort management. We have first right of refusal on any sales within the resort boundaries. Derek frowned. Resort boundaries? The cottage isn't part of the resort. It's just near it. I'm afraid that's not quite accurate. Robert slid a map across the table. It showed the full extent of Coastal Paradise Resort property, outlined in blue. Derek's face went through several interesting color changes as he realized the cottage was right in the middle of that blue outline. This can't be right, Derek stammered. Maya's cottage has been there for 14 years. The resort was built around it. Actually, Robert said carefully, the resort was built by acquiring properties in this area over a 13-year period, starting 14 years ago. The cottage was the first property purchased by the resort's owner. Everything else was built around it, as you say. I watched Derek trying to process this. I could see the moment he thought he understood. Wait, So the resort wants to buy Maya's cottage? His face lit up. That's perfect. We can negotiate a much better price than $180,000. If it's that important to your operations, we should be talking about at least $500,000. Maybe more. Michael's expression didn't change. Mr. Chin, I don't think you understand the situation. I understand perfectly. You need that land, we have it. That's called leverage. Derek leaned back in his chair, suddenly confident. Here's what's going to happen. We'll cancel the sale to Pacific Ventures. Then we'll negotiate a proper price with the resort. I'm thinking $750,000 is fair. That property is worth more to you than anyone else. Derek, I started. Maya, please. Let me handle this. This is business negotiation. It's what I do. He turned back to Michael. So, do you have a deal? Or do I take that Pacific Ventures offer and let them be your problem? Robert cleared his throat. Mr. Chin, there seems to be a fundamental misunderstanding. The resort doesn't want to buy the property. The resort already owns it. Silence. That's impossible, Derek said flatly. Maya owns it. She bought it 14 years ago. Maya Chin purchased the property 14 years ago, yes, Robert agreed. Under the entity Coastline Holdings LLC. That same entity subsequently purchased every other piece of property that now comprises Coastal Paradise Resort. Coastline Holdings is the sole owner of this entire resort complex. The cottage, the hotels, the restaurants, the golf courses, the marina, all of it. Derek laughed. It sounded forced. Okay, this is getting ridiculous. My sister is not some corporate entity. She works in, what is it, Maya? Something with computers. Property development, I said quietly. Right, property development. Some entry-level thing, I'm sure. He looked at Michael. Look, I don't know what kind of scam you're trying to pull here, but my sister owns a cottage. That's it. One small cottage. She doesn't own your fancy resort. Michael finally looked at me. Really looked at me. Miss Chin, would you like to clarify the situation? I think Robert's explanation was quite clear, I said. Maya, what is he talking about? Derek demanded. I bought the cottage 14 years ago, I explained, my voice calm and measured. It was my first property investment. Over the next year I bought 3 more properties nearby. Then 6 more the year after that. I quit my job at the investment firm, took out loans, reinvested every profit. I spent 13 years acquiring land, getting permits, finding investors, building infrastructure. Coastal Paradise Resort opened its first hotel 6 years ago. We've expanded continuously since then. Derek was shaking his head. No, you can't. Mom and Dad would have known. They would have told us. Why would they know? Did you all ever ask what I did for work? Did anyone ever ask how I spent my time, what I was building, what I'd accomplished? I kept my voice gentle. Not angry, not triumphant. Just factual. You all assumed I was struggling. You assumed the cottage was all I had. And I never corrected you because honestly, it didn't matter what you thought. This is insane, Derek whispered. Robert slid another document across the table. This is the deed to the cottage property. As you can see, it's registered to Coastline Holdings LLC. Here's the corporate registration showing Maya Chin as founder and sole owner. Here's the deed to the rest of the resort properties. And here, he added another thick folder, are the documents you signed claiming to have power of attorney to sell property you don't actually have any authority over. Derek's face had gone from red to gray. I didn't know. Maya, I swear I thought I was helping you. That cottage looked so shabby compared to everything around it. I thought you were embarrassed by it. You thought you knew better than I did what my own property was worth, I said. You thought I was too stupid or too unsuccessful to realize what I owned. So you forged documents, arranged a fraudulent sale, and planned to pocket $18,000 as your finder's fee. It wasn't fraud. I genuinely believed that I was poor, I finished. That I was failing. That I needed you to rescue me from my own incompetence. Michael stood up. Mr. Chin, I'm going to need you to leave the resort property now. Security will escort you out. If you attempt to contact Pacific Ventures or any other potential buyers about this property, we will pursue legal action for fraud and forgery. Wait. Derek turned to me desperately. Maya, please. I made a mistake. A huge mistake. But I'm your brother. You can't do this to me. I'm not doing anything to you, I said. I'm simply protecting my property from someone who tried to steal it. I didn't steal it. I thought it was yours to sell. It is mine. Mine to sell or mine to keep or mine to do whatever I want with. The key word being mine. I stood up. Derek, you spent my entire adult life treating me like I was the family disappointment. You, Mom, Dad, Lauren, all of you. I drove a modest car, so I must be poor. I kept a small cottage, so I must be unsuccessful. I worked in property development, which you all assumed meant I was barely getting by. We didn't know, he protested. You didn't ask. There's a difference. I picked up my bag. You can explain to Pacific Ventures why the sale fell through. You can explain to Mom and Dad why your smart business move was actually attempted fraud. And you can explain to the Audi dealership why you need to return that car you bought with money you never actually had. Paya, please. Miss Chin, Michael interrupted, using my formal title for the first time in Derek's presence. We still need your decision on the quarterly expansion budget. The board meeting is next week. Approve it, I said. All departments are tracking well. Let's move forward. Excellent. I'll have Patricia send you the final reports. He turned to Derek. Mr. Chin, security is waiting in the hallway. Derek looked between us, his face a mixture of shock, humiliation, and dawning realization. The board meeting. You're actually the CEO and owner of Coastal Paradise Resort, I confirmed. I have been for 6 years. Before that, I was the principal investor and developer. I built this place from the ground up, starting with that worthless beach shack you tried to sell. But you never said anything. You let us all think. I didn't let you think anything. You made assumptions. I just didn't bother correcting them. I headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Derek, that power of attorney you have? Consider it revoked. I'll have Robert send you the formal documentation. In the hallway, 2 security guards were indeed waiting. Derek stumbled past them, his confidence from an hour ago completely evaporated. I watched him go, feeling nothing in particular. No satisfaction, no anger, no vindication. Just a mild sense of completion. Michael walked with me toward my actual office. The corner office with the best view, the one with my name on the door that nobody in my family had ever seen. That was restrained, he commented. Was it? I expected you to let him dig deeper. Really expose how little he understood. What would be the point? He understands now. I settled behind my desk, looking out at the Pacific. Besides, the real consequences haven't even started yet. My phone was already ringing. Mom, of course. I let it go to voicemail. Then Dad. Then Lauren. Then Mom again. Patricia appeared with coffee and a knowing look. Your family seems eager to reach you. I imagine they are. Derek's probably called them by now. What are you going to tell them? The truth eventually. But not today. I sipped the coffee, perfect temperature, perfect strength. Patricia knew me well. Today I have actual work to do. The spa project needs final approval. The Q3 reports need review. And I believe we have an interview with hospitality today scheduled for next week. Friday at 10 a.m. Good. Let's focus on that. But of course my family wasn't willing to wait. By 5 p.m. they'd called 37 times combined. At 6 p.m. they simply showed up. Reception called up. Miss Chin, there are 4 people in the lobby claiming to be your family. They're quite insistent about seeing you. Should I have security? No, it's fine. Send them up. 5 minutes later, Mom, Dad, Lauren, and a very subdued Derek crowded into my office. Mom's face was blotchy from crying. Dad looked angry. Lauren just looked confused. Paya Victoria Chin, Mom started, her voice shaking. What is the meaning of all this? Derek says you own this entire resort. He says you're worth, he says. She couldn't even finish. I'm worth about $900 million, I said calmly. Give or take $50 million depending on market conditions and property valuations. Lauren sank into a chair. That's not possible. Why not? Because you're just Maya. You drive a Subaru. You wear regular clothes. We've never seen you. She gestured helplessly at the office, at the resort visible through the windows, at everything. Never seen me be successful? I suggested. That's because you never looked. Don't you dare turn this around on us, Dad snapped. If you had this kind of money, this kind of success, you should have told us. We're your family. Why? I asked, genuinely curious. So you could what? Treat me with respect? Value my opinions? Stop making jokes about my entry-level job, and my shabby cottage and my sad little life? I shouldn't have to be a near-billionaire to earn basic decency from my own family. That's not fair, Mom protested. We always loved you. You loved who you thought I was. Or rather, you loved feeling superior to who you thought I was. I stood up, walking to the window. Do you know how many family dinners I sat through listening to Derek brag about selling cars? Listening to Lauren talk about her husband's medical practice? Listening to you both talk about your country club friends and your vacation home and your investments. You never contributed to those conversations, Lauren said defensively. Because every time I mentioned work, you all changed the subject or made jokes. Oh, Maya's little property projects. Maya's still trying to figure out her career. Maybe someday Maya will find something she's good at. I turned back to face them. I found something I was good at 14 years ago. I just stopped talking about it because none of you actually cared. Derek, who'd been silent until now, finally spoke. I'm sorry, Maya. I genuinely am. I had no right to try to sell your property. I was way out of line. You were, I agreed. But you have to understand how this looks from our perspective. You hid all this from us. You let us think you were barely getting by. What were we supposed to think? You were supposed to trust me. To believe I was capable of managing my own life. To ask me how I was doing instead of assuming I was failing. I sat back down. Derek, you've been treating me like a charity case for a decade. You've offered me opportunities at your dealership, answering phones, doing data entry. You've suggested I go back to school. You've tried to set me up with your friends who were successful enough to support a wife. All because you looked at my modest lifestyle and assumed it meant I was struggling. The cottage, Mom started, is exactly what I want it to be. It's my reminder of where I started. It's my private retreat. It's the heart of everything I built. I pulled up a photo on my computer and turned the screen toward them. This is what the cottage looked like when I bought it. Run down, neglected, 30 years of deferred maintenance. I spent 6 months renovating it myself. Learned plumbing, electrical work, carpentry. That cottage taught me everything I needed to know about property development. The photo showed a genuinely dilapidated building. Peeling paint, broken windows, a sagging porch. Nothing like the neat, well-maintained cottage that sat there now. I kept the exterior modest on purpose, I continued, while I built a $900 million resort around it. Because that cottage isn't about impressing anyone. It's about remembering that success isn't about what other people think. It's about what you build for yourself. $900 million, Dad repeated faintly. And you never thought to mention it. When? At Christmas, when you were all comparing bonus checks and I knew mine was larger than all of yours combined? At Thanksgiving, when Derek was bragging about his dealership's annual revenue and I knew my resort made more in a month? At Easter, when Mom was showing off her new bracelet and I just approved a $12 million purchase order for new furniture across all my properties? Silence. I'm not trying to be cruel, I said more gently. I'm trying to make you understand. I didn't hide my success from you. I just stopped performing my life for your approval. You all made assumptions about me and I let you keep those assumptions because honestly they made my life simpler. Simpler how? Lauren asked. No one hitting me up for money. No one trying to invest in opportunities that would inevitably fail. No one treating me differently because of my bank account. I shrugged. I've seen what money does to families. I've watched friends lose relationships because everyone suddenly wanted something from them. I didn't want that. So you just let us look down on you? Mom's voice cracked. Did you look down on me? I asked the question seriously, looking at each of them. They couldn't answer. That's what I thought, I said. And that's the real issue here, isn't it? Not that I didn't tell you about my success. But that you're all realizing how you treated someone you thought was beneath you. Derek stood up abruptly. I need to go. I have a lot to figure out. He paused at the door. Maya, I am sorry. Not just about the cottage. About all of it. You deserved better from me. After he left, the others sat in uncomfortable silence for a moment. What happens now? Dad finally asked. That's up to you, I said. I'm still your daughter. I'm still your sister. But I'm not going to pretend to be less than I am to make anyone comfortable. This is my life. This is what I built. If you can accept that, really accept it, then we can move forward. If you can't. I trailed off meaningfully. Of course we accept it, Mom said quickly. We're proud of you. We're so proud. Are you? Or are you just recalibrating now that you know I'm not the failure you thought I was? She flinched. That's cruel, Maya. Is it? Mom, 2 days ago you told me my cottage was an embarrassment to the family. You were relieved Derek was selling it. Now you're proud of me because you found out I'm rich. That's not pride in me as a person. That's pride in my bank account. What do you want from us? Lauren asked, frustration evident. Nothing, I said honestly. I don't need anything from any of you. I never have. That's what you all failed to realize. The question is, what do you want from me? They looked at each other, clearly not having considered this perspective. I want my sister back, Lauren said finally. The real one. Not the version we made up in our heads. Then you have to actually get to know her. The actual her. I pulled up my calendar. I have a board meeting next week. You're welcome to attend if you want to see what I actually do. I have the spa groundbreaking the week after. You can come to that too. Or we can just have dinner somewhere quiet and talk. Really talk for once. We'd like that, Dad said. All of it. Okay then. I stood up. But understand, this isn't a performance. I'm not going to dress differently or act differently or change my life to match what you think a CEO should look like. I am who I've always been. You all just finally noticed. They filed out slowly, each one looking back at my office, at the evidence of success they'd never bothered to see before. When they were gone, Patricia appeared with fresh coffee. How are you feeling? She asked. Tired, I admitted. But also, relieved? I didn't realize how exhausting it was, maintaining that separation. Listening to them without correcting them. You could have corrected them any time. I could have. But then I would never have known how they really saw me. I looked out at the resort. My resort. Now I know. And now they know. And we can decide what to do with that information. My phone buzzed. A text from Derek, called Pacific Ventures. Explained there was no sale. They're threatening to sue me for fraud. I deserve it. But if there's anything you can do. I forwarded the message to Robert with a brief note. Handle this. Derek made a mistake, but he's still family. Make it go away whatever it costs. Patricia read over my shoulder. That's generous. It's practical. Derek learned his lesson. No point in ruining his life over it. I finished my coffee. Besides, I can afford to be generous. That's one of the perks of being worth $900 million. Only $900 million? I smiled. Give it a year. The spa complex will push us over $1 billion. That night, I drove back to the cottage. My cottage, my first property, my reminder of everything I'd built. It was dark, quiet, peaceful. Through the windows, I could see the resort lights twinkling across the property. 2 hotels, 48 villas, 3 restaurants, all of it mine. I made tea in the modest kitchen, sat on the slightly worn couch and thought about everything that had happened. Derek trying to sell my property. My family's assumptions finally being shattered. The look on their faces when they realized who I actually was. I could have been angry. Could have been vindictive. Could have let Derek face the full legal consequences of his fraud. But what would that have accomplished? They knew now. They all knew. And that knowledge would change everything going forward, for better or worse. My phone buzzed one more time. Mom, I really am proud of you, sweetheart. I'm sorry it took me so long to say it. I typed back, thank you, Mom. That means more than you know. And it did. Because despite everything, despite the assumptions and the dismissals and the years of being treated like the family disappointment, they were still my family. They just finally knew who I really was. The CEO who drove a Subaru. The billionaire who lived in a modest cottage. The successful property developer who built an empire while everyone around her assumed she was barely scraping by. I'd never needed their approval. But it was nice finally to have their respect. Even if I'd had to own an entire resort before they noticed I was worth noticing.